Hello and welcome everybody. We have another update with Melanie Vritschan from ICATOR. I'm so glad you could join us. We have got some news, some good news regarding the scanning and how that's going, and some other news as well. But let's start with Melanie because she has some really good updates about the scanning at the Belgium University. Hi Melanie, how are you doing?
Yes, hello, Catherine, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very hot summer evening here in Brussels, so sorry for my little dress here, a little summer dress. But yes, indeed, we have a few good updates from ICATOR. I get a lot of requests from members that are interested, of course, in scanning, that need these crimes, the proofs of the crimes committed against them, the scientific evidence for their court cases and in general. So the last update we gave, Catherine and I explained that we have now, we're very lucky to get a generous donation from Anne M. I would like to thank her again, and a few other smaller donors that will enable us to do a scanning in August with Catherine and I to work on the measurement protocol with the two university professors to finish this up. And once we agree on this measurement protocol and this is all set up, then we will very quickly move to invite our members to have them scanned. A few of them have court cases, so those will be invited with priority. What we would need now is that, as we explained already, to be able to do scanning, this costs us 1,500 euros per day. We have been successful in raising the first 1,500 euros so that we can now do this, let's say, calibration scanning with Catherine and I and the university professors in August, and then we'll move to the group scanning. This is why we're here today. We're hoping to be able to raise another 1,500 euros to be able to do the group scanning very quickly afterwards. I would say tentatively, maybe end of September, October. I would really like to invite all our members to get scanned. So this is why we're here. I would like to thank our donors again. This is already very, very good news that the scientific project can continue, because even this we weren't sure. Now it is clear that it will continue, thanks to our donors again. And we hope that we get another 1,500 euros so that we can invite our members and have everybody scanned. So this is our main news tonight.
Well, this is already, great achievement, really, because I mean, this is an absolute breakthrough. We already had two tentative scannings with the university last time, and we noticed that really the chip frequencies can be seen. But one of the things I really would like to do is to hone in and find out the exact chip frequency, because that can lead the victims on to finding out who has licensed the frequency and who is involved in their torture, in their remote control torture. So this is really my goal to have that finalized. But already, if we can convincingly prove that people are implanted with body chips and they are emitting high frequencies, which the body cannot emit by itself, then that would be a breakthrough. And I'm not sure if you mentioned that. I was just keeping an eye on the chat. Did you mention that there's some people who have court cases queued up? So what we'll try to do is try to make sure that those who have court cases also get priority, so that they can be scanned and can take their their results straight to court. And that's for the reason that any successful court case benefits everybody else, not just in that country, but worldwide, because those court cases can be quoted. So I guess this is the goal. Are there any other news from you?
And you yourself, you are involved in several court cases, as I understand it, right now.
Yes, that's
as
right.
An expert or an expert witness. So these people, and they will know who we're talking about when they see this video, will of course be invited with priority, because they need this scientific evidence of this crime committed against them for a court case. So of course they will be the first on our list, so to speak. I myself, as some of you know, I am also involved in a quite a big court case following the events that happened at my daughter's birth, unfortunately, last year. So I myself, I'm of course very interested in getting this scientific evidence, but all our members that are currently involved in court cases will be first on the list. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I can say is that the two court cases I'm involved with as an expert witness are, number one, Siegfried Thomas's case in Biel in Switzerland, and he and his wife are being assaulted with directed energy weapons. And the second one is Frederic Laroche in Grenoble, France. But Frederic Laroche already knows that he has chip implants, so we've talked about that, and that's very, very important. But also with all the other court cases that I know about, generally internationally, it's pretty clear that more than one would assume have chip implants. And my personal suspicion is that these implants on the body are also placed so that the weapons can be targeted much better through walls, etc. So by now, my base assumption is that every single person who is being assaulted with directed energy weapons is also implanted, which might come as a huge shock to you if you've been, assaulted with directed energy weapons but don't know anything about chips. I've been pretty much in the same situation, and it was you, Melanie, who showed me that I'm implanted the very first time last year in 2017. And all I can say is, okay, don't panic. But the good news, if it can be called good in this sorry state, the good news is that as soon as you can show that you have non-consensual chip implants, you have essentially a home run in court, because it shows that your body has been violated and set up with military technology. And by now the evidence is in that the reason you have this technology in you is because they want to torture you, they want to use you for example, sex trafficking, human experimentation, and also to target weapons at you much better through, sometimes multiple walls. So actually having the chips in you might be in the long term, or knowing that you have these chips in you might be a very good thing in the long term for the court cases, because it gives you an extra handle on it. And that's especially important because a lot of these directed energy weapon assaults are extremely hard to measure. And
of course, once you know the location of these non-consensually body implants, you can also have them surgically removed, which in my case, as a lot of people know, has already happened with one foreign body that was removed from my neck. And that we had analyzed in the Swiss laboratory, thanks to Catherine, who was instrumental in finding this laboratory that was specialized in bio and nanotechnology, and have done an excellent job. Dr. Camelia Borka, who has done a spectrum.
It's X-ray fluorescence.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And that has proven that it was composed of several metals, I believe, like titanium, aluminium, manganese, and huge blocks of ions, if my memory is correct. So this also, of course, then the scanning also helps to narrow down the location on your body where these chips are located, have been implanted, and then also that facilitates, of course, the surgical removal. In this case, once you have surgically removed a foreign body, well, this is then really, let's say, the smoking gun, the ultimate proof that you actually have the weapon, so to speak, the bullet, or even though it's not a bullet, it's a much more sophisticated weapon that was where your body has been violated with bodily harm, as Katherine said, and this is then also facilitates much more the investigation process.
Sorry, absolutely. So I had to unmute myself. Yes.
I wanted to say something because you said that about regarding the assaults. I think you have also done a good job in actually raising awareness with your neighbors. And I understand that you had recently done a mailing to not only make them aware of what is going on, and also the potential bodily harm they can suffer, even if you are assaulted. But you've also done something else, I understand.
Exactly. Good. Thank you for reminding me, because that is pretty big news. So what happened is that Siegfried Thomas and I, we were working together for several days. I was one day in Biel, working at his place, really analyzing and trying to do the forensics on his where he lives and the assaults in his flat. And then a week later, he came up here, and we were working here in my flat. And I showed him, you know, the curious things like the black satanic goat and other odd things. So, for example, one of my neighbors, for those who don't know, I continuously am assaulted on the motorway and when I'm driving my car, but especially on my motorway. And sometimes they're trying to run me off the motorway, push me into the barrier, or just, cut me up in crazy ways, so trying to cause an accident. And now my neighbor to the north, they have placed, it's pretty unbelievable, but they have placed a crunched up metal car in their front garden, like a feature, like a car that went through a massive accident is now as a statue in their front garden. And that's what I'm seeing out of my window. So okay, as you do. But anyway, so I showed Siegfried Thomas all of these things. And then after that, we went to the police station, because he is a witness who is experiencing exactly what I'm experiencing in Biel in Switzerland. And also he can testify to the fact that I'm the expert witness for his court case. So we walked into the police station, and as it turned out, none of the police people in charge of my case were present. And the interesting thing was that the chief of police apparently had an accident. Okay, so that's already eyebrow raising, but could happen. But the Mr. Schoch in charge of my case, so the police chief is Wendelin Koch, but Mr. Schoch, the police officer in charge of my case, wasn't there. And he usually isn't there when I go. Right, I somehow quietly suspect he's is notified as soon as I leave my door, walking towards the police station. He just gets into the car and leaves. Sorry, that's my suspicion. But during that meeting with the police, something very, very interesting was uncovered, because I was trying to talk to this guy, and I said, look, this is Siegfried Thomas. He's a major witness. I'm walking into a police station with a major witness. Do you care to ask him any questions or interrogate him, or just log the fact that he exists? And these police officers were, no, well, we can't really do anything. It's not our case, get lost, get lost. So it's the usual, we're the police, we don't want to hear anything about evidence sort of reaction. So I got impatient and I said, excuse me, do you even know anything about my case? Do you know who I am? Because I've never seen this guy before. And he said, yes, of course I know who you are, because you're the talk of the entire region, aren't you? I said, oh, really? Am I? And he said, yes, well, you have sent all these letters, referring to the neighborhood campaign that I did. And he said, ever since you sent all those letters, the phone keeps ringing. So that was very interesting, because I don't think these people are calling in because 2 or 3 months ago they got a letter and they're still to this day really upset about having received a letter like that. I rather suspect that my assumption was right all along, and I'm not the only person being assaulted here in Unterengstringen. I rather suspect that the people who have these weapons mounted, in the times when I'm, for example, out of the house, they are machine gunning somebody else. So for everybody who's living in this area of Unterengstringen, I can confirm now, as I heard from the police, that there are a lot of people calling. Okay, so if you're in the situation that I'm in, just know that we're all in the same boat, and there are many, many more invisible people around us who might be having the same problem. And I've discovered that the entire game of the cover-up is to keep people oblivious about how many other people in the immediate vicinity are also affected. Because if we ever join up, we will finish these people off before the weekend, you know. So for everybody here in Unterengstringen, please know that there are a lot of neighbors calling. Okay, that's number one you should know. Number two, if you don't live in Unterengstringen near Zurich, please also know that exactly the same pattern will also apply to you. So if you have done a neighborhood campaign, you know, brace yourself, because it might have been much more successful than you ever realized. And if you haven't done a neighborhood campaign, please, may I just very quickly share my screen and show you how you can do exactly what I did. Sorry, this is the live broadcast. If you go to my website, which is stop007.org, and you scroll down to here, burning down the house of crime, the next link here, this one here, is inform the neighbors and flyers that you can distribute. So if you click here, you can see here is the link to the flyers and so on. But further, oh, sorry, no, here. So here's the list of flyers that we have, and there are more to come. But then there's also a template in German and a template in English, and a video explaining how to use them. And they are referring to, or they are based on, the letter that I use. So you can see the original letter that I sent to all my neighbors here in Unterengstringen near Zurich, and the English translation of my letter exactly as I sent it. So all the neighbors who haven't gotten the letter because maybe the Swiss intelligence agency pulled it out of their ridiculously flat post box, which I noticed is actually very easy to do, you can see the letter here. And I can also say that one, so here, by the way, I stuck up all the houses marked with a little yellow dot that I've notified. So you can see, okay, you can also see my laptop is about to die, but you can see that I've notified quite a few, and there are more to come. And I really recommend that if you do a neighborhood campaign, that you do exactly the same thing, because this way your neighbors can check, have they been notified that somebody stolen the letter or something like that, you know. But there's another victim who has taken part in this neighborhood campaign. Actually, Siegfried Thomas took part in it as well. I think the feedback is very, very positive. The only thing you have to overcome is this first, you know, inhibition to actually go out and put yourself out there. But once you just post it, people actually read the information, and they are much more open to it than you would think. Melanie, I give it over to you because my laptop is about to die, so I have to plug it in.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this is very interesting, and I think that often we think, well, you know, can I do this? Can't I do this? Probably they're gonna think I'm crazy, or we don't dare. And indeed, sometimes when you just dare and you give informative information that they can also check, or give the sources where they can actually verify that not only these weapons exist, that the patents exist, that they have already been investigated, for example, in the past. This is just historical facts. That we know that the MK Ultra program was investigated by the American Congress, and there were also then compensation payments that had to be done to the survivors and their families. So all this kind of verifiable information you can give, and you've done that very well, as I see. You know, explained them very well. What is actually the damage that can be caused by these weapons, and even if they're targeting you, there will always be a certain percentage of the radiation that goes through the walls and that hits your next door neighbor. So once you dare and come forward, I agree. You will actually be surprised how open people are, and there was, well, not everybody maybe, but quite some people who take this seriously and want to know more. And probably you're right that the calls at the police station are probably because people have received this and have been, you know, you have raised awareness for this problem, and they want to know more. Regarding well, police, there's, on my side, there's good and bad experiences that I can report. One, I actually did something similar than you. I once organized a meeting with the local mayor here in the area I live, and there was also the police chief that was attending, and I explained to them, well, the problem of non-consensual implantation, and also, but what I wanted to attract more their attention to is these that these illegal entries in the victims' homes, the ransacking of the property, and this kind of harassment that is happening on the ground. And well, they didn't know anything about this. I told them that with our American sister organization, ICATOR, so the International Center Against Abuse of Covered Technologies, and others, they had done the same, and they had actually succeeded in getting the city of Richmond in California to adopt laws against space weapons, so that do not encourage the use of space weapons on their territory. And the victims also met with the chief of police there and explained what was happening to them, that they had illegal entries into their home, ransacking of their properties, and nuisance calls, and all the kind of harassment types that victims are experiencing. And so I told them this here, and they seemed quite interested. They didn't know anything about this. I once had bad experiences also, that the police chief actually said if that happened again, I had two witnesses with me, I could file a complaint with him. And when I actually did, and there was a friend who came with me, we had to wait 2 hours when he said he would take down my complaint. And then he let me know via another police officer that he had to leave. So we sat around for 2 hours for me to file a complaint, just to be told that there was nobody available anymore to take my complaint. So that was not such a good experience. And but I must also say that more police officers have now understood that this problem is real, and they're taking my complaints seriously, and they have also had the opportunity to actually how do you say, examine my car when it was vandalized again. And there were also witnesses that when we came to my place, I parked my car in front of my house. I went up with several witnesses, and when we later came down, the windscreen wipers were torn, and they were how do you say, ripped. So I filed another complaint, and the police officer, female police officer, I must say, that I'm in contact with now, she took this very seriously, and she looked at the car, and she said, indeed, there's obvious damage that has been done. So more and more, you will change people's mentalities also, and raise awareness for this problem. And I agree with you, Katherine, it takes some boldness, it takes some courage. Not everybody will believe you. There will always be those who will make fun of you or think you're crazy, or but then there's also the other percentage. If you source your material well and present it in a credible way, that will actually listen to you, and then will, their awareness is risen. They will then contact the police and want to know more. And I guess that's what happened in your case. I personally, I do not how do you say, get myself disheartened by those who will make fun or will call me crazy without actually having checked the information and verified the information. What I'm telling them is just the truth, and I'm not afraid to speak the truth, so to speak, even at great personal risk or personal costs, which most of our viewers will probably be knowing what I'm talking about when I say that. But this will not stop me from speaking the truth, from raising awareness with my fellow citizens about these crimes going on, and do everything that is my power to stop them. And fortunately, we have more help also from intelligence agencies, whistleblowers, and doctors, lawyers, so people that other scientists that are helping us, and that are not so difficult to discount.
Absolutely. I mean, you also have extremely high level evidence. So you always stuck to very scientific evidence. You already have a chip measurement in a professional Faraday cage, and now a second one. And this entire information is impossible to discount. I should also say that one of the things I've discovered scanning people just with a bug detector as a first assessment up and down the country, I am shocked how many people I find implanted. So these non-consensual implantation programs have been going on for decades. The goal is to implant absolutely everybody. And the reason why they're doing it is because, for those who are new to this topic, is because for these microchips, you can pass a current, for example, through the body and simulate pain and do that in a remote controlled fashion. In other words, you can actually simulate illnesses, make people believe they have, for example, arthritis or joint problems, make them eat a lot of drugs that are not really very good, make them iller still, and then eventually end them in a cycle of just being reliant on the pharma industry, which is highly lucrative. So this is one thing.
And as we know from the scientist Barry Trower, who has worked over, I think, 40 years in these admittedly worked in these radiation experiences for the British government. He has said himself, I heard him in an interview saying that once the victim was starting to complain about these assaults, when the victim was actually dragged off to an asylum and spent their life in misery in a mental institution, being given drugs their whole life, which of course won't help, because this is assault. This is not a mental disorder. Then this was considered a success, and this project was considered a success. Well, fortunately for us, and unfortunately for those who are our aggressors, this has never worked with us. So there have been various attempts, at least on my person, to lock me up in a mental institution, and that has until this day they have not succeeded. And I believe that actually this has helped to raise more and more awareness for this problem. But this was what one of the scientists working admittedly worked in these radiation experiments on population said, that once the person was locked up in an asylum and given these drugs and had spent their life miserably in such a mental institution, this was considered a success. Well, I believe that fortunately this will be more difficult to do, because as the knowledge about these weapons grows, and we're getting also more traction in the European Parliament, thanks to Dr. Ronnie Kilde, who dedicated her life to raising awareness for this, and to request that appropriate EU legislation is enacted to protect our citizens from these abuses. Fortunately, this will be more difficult to do, to lock up a person, a victim that is complaining about these assaults in a mental institution. And I'm very happy to say that we found these scientists that think alike than I, and that want to help us prove these non-consensual implantations, and then hopefully we'll be able to stop this in the future.
Yeah, I have to say it can't come too soon, because the few times I have seen psychiatry in action when they try to section victims, I mean, they've tried it with you, they've tried it with Siegfried Thomas, they've tried it with Frederic Laroche. Every single time what I see is, oops, I think Melanie just dropped out. I think sometimes it happens, she gets sabotaged. I hope she can come back. But one of the things I have seen is that every single time it's a pseudoscience, because, sorry, I'm a high energy physicist. For me, everything I've seen about psychiatry underlines that it's a pseudoscience, and it's particularly suitable to be misused because there are absolutely no scientific standards attached to it. So these people can say whatever the hell they want. There's no objective basis, and the reports they are writing are more like school essays of people's private musings. And this can, of course, be used for absolutely anything. But in the cases that I've witnessed myself, these psychiatrists immediately went to just prescribe some sort of drugs, not just prescribe them, force them onto victims, Nazi style. And invariably, they poisoned people. They went absolutely against the fundamental, you know, a Hippocratic oath of never do any harm, you know. And it was absolutely shocking to see. So, for example, Frederic Laroche was poisoned. His breathing was paralyzed for a day. And I personally believe that it was a Nazi technique to try to increase the stress and try to make somebody believe that they're about to suffocate alive and this sort of stuff. So everything I've seen from the psychiatrists falls 100% into CIA MK Ultra and has absolutely nothing to do with medicine or any sort of science. So yes, but one of the things I would like to say for those who are new to this topic and maybe would like to accompany their neighborhood campaign or the information for their own family with something more scientific, please let me share my screen and show you. On my website, you have here, again, on the front page on stop007.org. If you go down to the FAQ and info pack here, that's the question mark, you will find, first of all, in the very beginning, I explain why what we are seeing here has nothing to do with schizophrenia or paranoia, because the sex ratio just doesn't match up. The sex ratio of the people reporting, for example, voice to skull, hearing voices, break-ins, directed energy weapon attacks, and so on, falls 100% into the pattern for war crimes and sex crimes. Okay, because this is exactly what they are. It's sex trafficking and it's war crimes. But further down, you will see a lot of information. I've also stuck in a new document here, which is called How to Recapture the System from Organized Crime. Please have a look. It's this one here. And then also, if you're going to the police for the first time, there's some instructions on that, especially if you're talking to the police, you need to know about the bullshit tango, which is what they're going to dance with you, trying to lead you up the garden path every which way. But also further down, there's more information about how to prepare court cases. And then here, there's an entire list of how you can prove the existence of these assault technologies. So I'm very pleased because one person really helped me in, you know, in passing me an entire list of patents. Oh, you're back. You're back. Excellent. I'm just going through the some documents on my website. And so you've got a full list of patents, I think over 100. I'm extremely grateful to the person who has assembled that. Then the other thing is here, a market analysis about the directed energy weapons. So the world market is about to quintuple from 8 billion to over 40 billion until 2023. So no one can claim these weapons don't exist because they're multi-billion-dollar market. Personally, I would like to also add the footnote that this quintupling of the directed energy weapons market is showing that these directed energy weapons are being sold absolutely everywhere, not just to the militaries, but even down to neighborhood levels. And I'll talk about that more. I mean, it is my personal analysis that this is related to the UN and the UN Sustainable Cities Program, whereby sustainable in their lingo means genocide. They want to kill off most of us, and directed energy weapons are particularly suitable because you can kill somebody through the walls of their home by firing a directed pulse, a shot through the wall. And for example, standard microwaves already have the property of passing through walls at 50% intensity. So you just have to double the intensity, and then you can literally microwave somebody in their own home. Okay. But also, if you know, you are shocked to hear about the body chips, here you will find an entire scientific article about body area networks, which are these networks of individual chips, because most victims are not just implanted by one chip or a handful; they are typically implanted by several dozen. Okay, so I think the highest number I've heard so far is 53 chips, but these are RF chips. On top of that, you have other types of implants and nanotechnology that do not necessarily themselves emit radio frequency, but are wired up or connected in one way or another, either to the RFID chips or to some other functionality in the body and the brain. But one of the things I would like to draw urgent attention to is a graphic which is taken from this scientific paper here, and it shows that now science is not just working on the single body area network, because they have sussed that a long time ago. What this is about is the body-to-body network, okay? In other words, these are repeaters, and if you're in a crowd, even if you're away from the nearest Wi-Fi, these repeaters can bounce signals along. So this falls into the topic of Internet of Things. And I guess what the organized crime cartel that runs this hasn't actually told us is that the Internet of Things is actually the Internet of Things in your body. Okay, that's where the really big money is. Okay, because really your car can talk to other cars and avoid car accidents. But frankly, what's the point in that? Because every single time you smash your car, you're going to buy a new one. So there's clearly no money in that, avoiding car accidents, but there's an awful lot of money in bringing car accidents about, and also bringing artificial diseases about. Because once people are ill or in pain, they will literally pay any sum of money not to be so anymore. Okay, so these are the things you have on my website. Also, just let me just finish off. Here, for example, there are 1,500 victim cases, and these victim cases have been passed to every single government in the world already 10 years ago. Okay, and then further down, you have high-profile affidavits from here, Dr. Ronnie Kilder, the former Chief Medical Officer of Finland, former Technical Director of the NSA, William Binney, and Ted Gunderson, FBI agent, and much, much, much more. So please, these documents are there for your perusal, education, and also for your download, so that you back them up and use them in your court case, or you give them to your public bodies. Okay.
Yes, I would just like to jump in, Katherine, because it's very good that you show this. Because what we should maybe underline is that we're actually working with these people and these former intelligence agencies, whistleblowers, and various doctors and lawyers. Because what I had been what I had been reproached at Erasmus Hospital when later was that apparently said, well, yes, but your friend talked about intelligence agencies, and she talked about CIA and NSA, and I said, well, this might be, but we're actually, if she talked about it, it's actually because we're working with NSA and CIA whistleblowers. And I would also like to underline that we had the honor and the pleasure of have various of these former intelligence agencies employees, or high-level employees, also as speakers at our covered harassment conference. Maybe Katherine, you could show this whilst I'm talking about this. We had William Binney, who was the former technical director of the NSA, was one of our speakers, and then we had Carl Clark. I think he used to work for the CIA, the Mossad, and MI5. You just showed him as well. He was also in your list. He made years ago already an article with Raum und Zeit, the German science magazine.
Just a second, because as you're talking, there's really a lot of useful information. Let me just share my screen and bring it up, so that people
can show the conference slide.
So yes. The URL you were mentioning is www.covertharassmentconference.com. So covert harassment conference, all one word. And there were two. So there's the 2015 was the second one. And you see a link here that is to the 2014 event. And you can see William Binney, Dr. Ronnie Kilder. And Dr. Ronnie Kilder, sadly, was murdered months later. So very, very bad. By Kjell Brandhagen.
Very suspicious, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's beyond a doubt. But if you go to speakers, you can see the entire list, and you can, I think, also listen to the speeches. I really encourage you to listen to what these people have got to say. I mean, it doesn't get any higher profile than that. When you have really the former technical director of the NSA telling you how your democracy is being subverted by NSA and by their organized crime cartel known as the Five Eyes, then you really have to listen, okay? So this is
I agree. So this is just to underline that it's not only us who are talking about this the subject. Indeed, when the various former intelligence services employees that talk about these subjects, like here, Catherine's just showing Carl Clark, who also did a presentation at our conference. So then, indeed, you should listen. The other subject or the other reproach I was made.
Sorry, just 1 second. Let me just slide in 1 second. I just wanted to point people to, at the end of this the site for Carl Clark, you will find an original newspaper article that appeared in Raum on site in 2009, and you will also find on the very same page the English translation. These are 2 PDF documents for download, and here Carl Clark explains that the secret services do break into homes. They do use electromagnetic weapons on civilian populations, and they also target innocent people in the full knowledge that they are innocent. So, yeah.
Yes, correct. So it's very important, I think, to show this, because that is what I answered when I was questioned about the fact that you had apparently talked about, intelligence services. I said, well, if she talked about them, this is because we're working with these people. So and they're helping us in raising awareness with our fellow citizens and with the governments about these covered crimes. This is one thing. The other thing is, and I don't know yet if I will bring this to success or not, the other thing that, the other approach that came constantly was that I was not aware of my mental illness, or we were not aware of the gravity of our mental illness, because we had not studied psychiatry or psychology, and so we didn't know how gravely ill we were actually. So last time I said that in the meantime, I'm trying to make good use of the time that my daughter's unfortunately still not with me, that this use procedure is still running, in actually following a course about psychology from the University of Monash in Australia, which proves to be very interesting. I don't know yet if I'll succeed or not, but should I do so, we have at least one of these, reproaches that are constantly made, that we can then answer that. Well, I and other colleagues also have degrees in psychology. So, and if I don't succeed, well, at least I will have broadened my knowledge, and so we'll see. But this is just to answer to these recurring reproaches that we get, or criticism that we get. Is not only us, 2 little ladies here talking about this. It is, in fact, the very people that have worked for these intelligence services that have turned whistleblowers, that are supporting us and helping us and want to raise awareness for these issues, and are also speakers at our conferences. And for the rest, well, I and other people are currently studying psychology, so we should not be so unknowledgeable.
Well, yeah, it really amuses me because, there was one court judgment where I think the judge quoted the psychiatrist at Hospital Erasmus, who referred me as delusional, even though they have never really met me, which is highly amusing, given that I, have a PhD in high energy physics, and I used to run, entire projects. But also, I think I know a bit more about research than these people. But also, one of the things that maybe not everybody knows, you and I were part of an international investigation team, and we do have a colleague formerly from the NSA. So if people go to the website jointinvestigation.org, they can see our team. We are concerned with, directed energy weapon assaults, military, neuro, and biotechnology, and systemic corruption. That's one of my pet little hobbies. But if you go to the About section, you can see all of us. So we have 5 ladies here. And well, it was never intended to be an all-female group. I have to say that some guys agreed to join and then literally chickened out. So I guess we're the people who have the courage to stand up. But here, for example, Karen Melton-Stewart, she is a former NSA intelligence analyst. She worked for NSA and held a top secret security clearance for 28 years. She's an expert on weapons development and proliferation. And she is, I think, one of the, I think personally, I would think she's the biggest NSA whistleblower, because she's the only NSA whistleblower who openly talks about the directed energy weapons attacks on the civilian population around the world. So most people, most intel whistleblowers know this is going on, but apart from her, no one dares to speak up.
Well, Carl Clark also speaks openly about it.
That's true, actually. Forgive me, that's right. Carl Clark did speak about that as well. But you know, he spoke about it briefly, but Karen speaks about it every single week. And on the front page, you can see our weekly show. So Melanie and I, we're speaking together. And there's also something called the Techno Crime Fighters Forum, where every Thursday you can see our team live, also the other ladies in the US. And the other thing I would like to say, now that we're on this page, is that here under appeals, there is now a new appeal for victim affidavits. And this has now been launched. And you can find the actual affidavit template here in OpenOffice format. Please use the OpenOffice format to fill it in. Please download it and have a look. Don't be shocked because it's 99 pages long. And it's 99 pages because I think we all agree that 100 pages would be far too much and no one would ever fill it out. But, you know, just aside, the reason why it's so long is because I try to codify absolutely everything that happens to victims. So including computer hacking, stalking, directed energy weapon attacks, neurotechnology attacks, and so on and so on. And the entire survey is in the tick box format, where you just state when every single offense started, just in the month and year. You tick at what frequency this is happening, you know, continuous, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. Or if it's distinct events, you just name how many times it occurred, once or 5 times. And then you take it, do you have evidence for that particular offense or not? But the idea is that for those offenses that you don't have evidence for, if you combine them with many other victims, then we can still prosecute these people. So please check it out. And I also would like to announce that there will be explanatory notes being posted here when I finish them. But you can already download the affidavit, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. One thing I would like to say about this is that after posting the affidavit form, as always, it has been, you know, the draft had been up for almost a year for people to comment, but it was only after I actually posted it that the lawyer got in touch with me and said, actually, there's one small correction, because I kept referring to the affidavit having to be notarized. And he explained to me that what I mean is just a witness. The signature has to be witnessed under oath by somebody who is entitled to administer oaths. This is, you know, could be anybody, like your bank can do this and many other places. But notarize means that you actually, you know, a notary public stamps it and it attaches a seal. Now, the reason why this is important is because of the costs. We do not need notarization because it can cost anything between $80 to $250, which is just a cartel asset stripping exercise, frankly. But if you just witness the signature under oath, that you swear that the content is the truth, that usually costs $5, or maybe it's even for free. Big difference. So I just want everybody to know that I've made a mistake over months referring to this as notarization. It is not full notarization. You just have to witness your signature under oath. Okay. You can do it at your bank in the US, and also you can do it at the councils in Germany and other places. So that's it. This is the other thing to announce, you know. And the affidavit survey will run over the coming months, so you will have all the time you need to actually fill it out, and more news soon.
And to sum up, or to come again back to our first what we talked about when we started, regarding the scanning project that we would really like to continue, and that we're able now to continue, is if you could, Katherine, I know you always put it in the description, but show again our viewers how they can actually donate, how they can support us. There are two ways. Basically, if you're in the Eurozone, we would advise you to use the ICATOR IBAN number, which you can find under Join Us. If Katherine can show it quickly on the ICATOR website. And for the rest of the world, there is a GoFundMe page, knowing that unfortunately GoFundMe takes about 5% commission for the services, but this is for people that are in the US or in Canada. It's probably still easier, because if you make a bank transfer, the costs are still higher. And there we also can see when we've recently gotten donations. We can see this here. So we hope to raise 1,500 euros. It would be great if we get one more big donation, as we got, thanks to Anne M, to be able to continue the scientific project and to provide the victims with evidence. But every little bit helps. We also have a few smaller donors, as you can see, and anyway, all the donations help, and so that we can go on with the project. Oops, there is a.
Sorry, yes, I forgot to unmute. Yes, we should also say that now the what's called the preliminary scanning will happen at the end of August. That is now fully funded. This will be Melanie and myself working with the professor at the Belgian University, trying to really fine-tune the measurement protocol. So that's already done. So we're now collecting donations to actually cover the running costs of ICATOR and actually fund the second scanning. And
for the members.
You know, because the second scanning is so important to do. If you don't get the funds in, one of the things we'll do is we will ask from all the people taking part that they donate. I think what we calculated would be something like 40 or 50 euros maximum. But what you would get is a full body scan for the radio frequency emissions, and the university also writes a report that you can quote in court. Okay, and it's a very well-regarded university, so whatever they say, it will be a report in English that you can then translate to your home country's language. And translation service is actually not that expensive if you buy them over the internet, so it's not insurmountable. But what you will then have is definite proof that you can use in your court case. And as I said, finding body implants is massively important, because it's something tangible. It's inside your body. You own it. You have complete control, and if somebody puts something in, you do have a valid case in court, and nobody can deny it. And it's much, much easier to argue with the body implants than it is to argue with the directed energy weapon attacks, because frankly, even I, as a high energy physicist, I find it extremely difficult to measure these. Okay, and that's to do with the exotic nature of the weapons that they are using, and it's to do with the fact that the sort of frequency range that you would have to measure is the measuring devices are ludicrously expensive. We're talking tens of thousands of euros.
Yeah,
that's my experience.
And that is why it is so good that we have the support and the help of this university. And as you say correctly, Katherine, it's one of the best, I think, in Europe. If we get positive results there, nobody will dispute us in court. And for the two preliminary scannings that we had already results that there were indeed frequencies that could come from the human body. This is why it's so important that we go on with this project, that we can actually prove this conclusively. And in my case, it has already been proven in another Faraday cage, and by a private investigator that also confirmed the nanotechnology and body implants in my body. But we want to do this now on a bigger scale for all our ICATOR members that need this proof so desperately. So also to prevent these false psychiatric diagnoses and this sectioning, which is just horrific. And these false diagnoses, psychiatric diagnoses, have to stop. And we really need to get down to the problem, which is actually of criminal nature and not a psychiatric problem.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I also would like to say, so I've just kept an eye on the chat, and I've just seen that Targeted Ireland flagged the fact that the template could be downloaded but not be used to edit. I should say that I have chosen to make this template in the OpenOffice format, which is virtually identical to Microsoft Word, but it is free. Okay, unlike Microsoft Word, because unless it comes with the operating system, it can be stupidly expensive. Mm-hmm. And OpenOffice does the same, it's for free, but it has the catch, the cartel-induced catch, that OpenOffice can open Word documents, but Word documents can't open OpenOffice. Please download OpenOffice. It takes 30 seconds, and then you should be able to edit it. And the PDF version, I've on purpose not made it such that you can edit it, because it's much better if you do it in OpenOffice, and then at the very end, you convert it back to PDF. So please do not try to edit it on PDF. Download OpenOffice. There's a link on the site that I've just shown you, or just search on Google, and then it should work. So that should clarify it. And then also, before I forget, and now that I see that people are listening, I was really, really shocked that I received so many reports from victims who didn't just complain about directed energy weapon attacks and chip implants and torture. They also reported a high number of deaths, let's say, suspected murders in their community. And one of the things I would like to say is on the affidavit template, there's a long list where you can add comments, and I would like to encourage you also to start compiling lists of the suspicious deaths, because as we're moving towards court cases, we need to get justice for them as well. Okay, so if you're in, certainly in my family, they killed several people, and I will be mentioning that in court. But we have to get the names of these people and the addresses where they lived before they died, so that we can start moving on this.
Yeah, of course. So, and as a concluding remark, I would. Once again, we hope we'll get your donation so that we can go on with the scientific project at the university, and that's for once. And secondly, we will also in the next day do one of our German shows, because I get a lot of requests also from the German speakers that do not speak English so well, that would like to get an update as well. So Katherine and I will proceed to doing this in the next days. And thank you for bearing with us. For the victims, I know how difficult the situation is. Please be patient and bear with us. We're doing really the best we can to get you the proof for these crimes, and moving to court cases, but it takes time and money, as you know. So yeah. And are there still any questions in the chat that you think is worth mentioning that we need to reply now that we're on the air? Or
I was just looking, so I am just trying to make sure. I think one of the things we'll do soon perhaps is also to have an actual open chat. So one episode where we're just answering all the questions that people post. That could also be an idea. Somebody asked that I reply to their email. I should say that I get so many emails that I am inundated, and because of the physical assaults on me and because of the necessity of finishing the affidavit draft, two things were totally on hold, answering emails and also my consulting sessions. So they will restart soon as I've got a bit more breathing space, but I can't tell you how heavy the assault is. So for those people who I knew, I am sitting completely surrounded in a metal bunker with extra shielding next to the door. And as I'm sitting here, the secret services in Switzerland know that I'm shielded. So they cranked up the power, and they are machine gunning me so hard that throughout the entire day, I can just hear massive shots, actually loud bangs, as they are hitting the metal. And I can also now prove that these are military weapons because they easily shoot through one metal shed and 2 layers of steel and aluminium. Okay, so this is not physics I'm familiar with, that's for sure. But it's extremely heavy, and I'm basically machine gun nonstop all throughout the day. And I should also say, for the people who are wondering why the hell I look like a mess, It's because I had to flee my home today. I spent the entire day sitting next to a Swiss lake, which wasn't too bad if it hadn't been for the assaults. But as I'm driving back home, they use the fact that on the motorway I can't escape to machine gun me into my forehead. So what you can just about see is injuries absolutely everywhere. And also I have to say it's boiling hot sitting in a metal shed when it's, you know, the top of summer, the peak of summer here in Switzerland. So this is just to explain to you, if I haven't replied to email, it's not because of disrespect towards you, it's because I'm at the absolute end of my physical capabilities. But I will get onto your email eventually, and the consulting sessions will restart soon. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, again for your attention, and we'll soon be back for another update in English and in German. And please, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please do not hesitate to use the chat, to email us. Even Katherine says we might not be able to reply immediately, but we'll eventually reply. And well, thank you again for your support so far, for the donations that we have gotten so far that have brought us until here, and hopefully we'll get more. We need another 1,500 more, as I said, to be able to continue with the project and invite all our ICATOR members to get a scan and get the food they need. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, you know, thank you for listening. And I should also say that if you're watching on YouTube, in the description below, you will find both of our emails and also the bank account details for ICATOR, and also the link to the website where you can cross-check that is indeed the ICATOR bank details. And just to reiterate, if you're in the US, it might be cheaper to use GoFundMe, unless you're using TransferWise or something like that. So, but if you're in Europe, it's definitely cheaper if you just do a direct bank transfer, because then the 5% platform fee isn't branched off. Okay, then ICATOR, the charity ICATOR, gets the full sum. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day wherever you are in the world, and talk to you soon.
Yeah.
For now.
We'll soon be back. Bye-bye.